Hey guys, welcome back to GatsuGaming. So today I'm giving you a quick rundown of my beta UI. A bunch of people have requested some information on it and some export strings, so I figured I'd go ahead and make just a real quick video showcasing what the UI does, and, you know, just somewhere basically I could attach the ElvUI links, so you can get the UI for yourself if you really want it for some reason. Now you'll notice I moved my chat box up here to the top of the screen. That is there purely because I didn't want you to not see my chat frame, which is definitely a very core part of your UI in general. One of the biggest things I have with my UI, my general design philosophy behind it, is to keep things as simple as possible while still having everything I need in view. Now there's a lot on my UI that you may look at and just say, well, why is it set up like that? It's literally personal preference. So if you don't like something, it's actually really easy to change anything you want in ElvUI if you know where to look in the menus. So I'll just go ahead and open up the menu here. If you haven't used ElvUI before, the quickest way to open the menu is just type /EC. E as in Eric, C as in Charlie. And then we'll go ahead and pop up this wonderful menu. So this menu just has a literal ton of different options. Anything you could possibly think of in the UI, every element you're looking at in some way, shape, or form can be modified here with this menu. So starting out first, I'm going to go ahead and hit toggle anchors, which is going to change the screen. Don't freak out, it's fine. Alright, so here you will see that there is a grid on the screen. There are a ton of frames that are not being shown right now. The cast bar is down there. Just a whole bunch of stuff that you may or may not even think about, but these are all elements of the UI that pop up all the time. So of course minimap is in the top right. It can go anywhere you want. I mean, you can move anything with ElvUI. It's all here. But obviously the minimap where it is, because I really don't use it too much in combat anyway. There's people who do, and they have it in the bottom of their screen or, you know, off to the side somewhere, but that's not for me. I just leave it where it originally started. So there are multiple panels here. On the bottom left, we have the left chat frame. This houses just my chat channels. And on the right-hand side, we have, it's labeled as right chat because that's how it is in the UI. But I don't use it as a chat frame. I use it to house my two details windows that I normally run. We have arena and boss frames right here. Anytime I'm fighting any sort of a boss in a dungeon, their frames will pop up here if I decide to do PvP for some crazy reason, because, spoiler alert, I'm not a PvPer at all. Arena frames pop up right here. Player buffs just sit at the top, and then debuffs, of course, are right below. They're actually locked together. It would be so rare for me to ever have enough buffs that they would ever overlap. But if they do, I'll address it when I get there, which I don't think will happen anytime soon. You'll notice that stance bar is way up here in the top left, which actually you can't see because of my wonderful little label, so we'll shift this again. That'll work for the moment. So the stance bar is way up here, just purely because that's where I leave it. I don't use the stance bar for anything. If I want to do anything as far as druid forms, I keep them in the bottom, on this bar over here, this bar 5, and I just plop them on there. The vehicle seat frames up here, your tank frames for raids are sitting here. My loot frame, I move wherever I feel like on the UI at that point. There's a GM ticket frame, which I almost never have to use. Raid frames and party frames, baseline are over here. This is, of course, just a DPS UI. For tanks and healers, I actually have a separate UI, which I will link in the description. They're just slightly different. They're more geared towards making sure you have everything you need directly under your character, or very close around it, so that you don't have to move your mouse too much, and you don't have to move away from the center of the screen, so that you're focusing where you need to be focusing on, so you don't need bad mechanics. Class totems are here. This is normally where you would see a totem timer on a shaman. Consecrate for paladin goes here. Demons for demonology warlock did go here at one point. Recently in the latest build, they do not. So I don't know if that's an issue with ElvUI or with Blizzard's general patch or not. We'll have to wait and see what happens. This one here labeled talking head frame. This is honestly getting in my way, so I'm probably going to shift it elsewhere again. But the talking head frame is basically just Anytime you get a quest and there is an NPC that talks to you and gives you kind of like a voiceover while you're running around, that's what the talking head frame is. At times I've considered just hiding this, but then you can't stop it from talking by right-clicking it, so I just kind of leave it here. You'll see my unit bars are here, bar 1 and bar 3. The reason it is bar 1 and bar 3 is because I do have 1 or 2 characters where I will actually hit shift and scroll wheel to change bar 1 to bar 2 through the default UI settings. It's very rare, but that's why I use bar 1 and 3 as opposed to 1 and 2. And then bar 5 is just the bar that was already out automatically on ElvUI. So I shifted it from the right-hand side down to just bar 5 right here. There's an Azerite power bar here, which is overlapped by the artifact power bar on live, which obviously will be phased out as soon as we stop using an artifact. And then there's an honor bar here. My experience bar is normally here between the class totem and the chat frame, but because this is a max level character, that bar is not showing at all because it has nothing to show. That actually replaces itself with the rep bar in my UI normally, but I haven't touched any rep at the moment, so it doesn't pop up unless you have an active rep you're working on. My cast bar just sits above my standard bars, and then we have our standard player frame, pet cast bar, important for imp occasionally, target frame, target cast bar, and target of target frame. Now you can apparently do a target of target of target frame as well. It's very rare you'd ever need that, but if you want it, it is in the options, you can enable it. I just choose not to because I don't feel I need that information at all. So I'm going to go ahead and hit lock, and that'll put my UI back to looking, nice and clean and aesthetically pleasing for me at least. But all the options you will ever need to edit ElvUI are right here in this menu. Take your time with it, only change one setting at a time, make sure it does what you want it to do, and if you're not sure, the folks over at ElvUI on their forums, there's a ton of useful little guides in there, and people are typically very, very helpful and very, very nice if you ask a question. So check them out. I believe they have a Discord as well, but I haven't been on that just yet. Now details over here, again I have 3 windows, damage done and healing done. These are the 2 that I use on live. Damage taken is only here for beta. And I have it skinned differently because I was actually just playing around with the different options to customize it. The backgrounds you add in through a wallpaper function in the options menu, which you go to options, and then you go down to window wallpaper. Then you select the one that you want to use. I typically take off editing group, so you're only doing one window at a time, unless you want the same thing on all of them, which some people do. And then you can change it here just by swapping around the category. It has a bunch of different choices in here. There's Burning Crusade logos, race backgrounds, Dungeons and Raid pictures, a bunch of things specifically for the different classes. And it just kind of stops there. There are, I believe, extra packs you can get for details that give you other art options, but I'm okay with the baseline ones, and actually on live I don't use any background at all because it actually works out really well without. But here in beta I didn't have enough add-ons that were functioning properly at first, so I just threw a background on just to give it something to go in with, so I'd have a background behind the bars so they weren't just kind of hanging out in space. But again, all the information is here. If I'm able to share the settings for details, I will. I don't know if I can actually export them. I don't remember if there's a way to, but if there is, I will go ahead and add those settings out there as well. But I don't believe I can actually do that for you. If that changes, I will let you know as soon as I can. So that is the basics of the UI. It is super simple. It's only a couple of add-ons. I'm going to show you the add-on list here real quick. So in here I have details, details encounter, details tiny threat, and details vanguard. These 4 are 100% baseline. You don't have to do anything special with them. Details streamer is an add-on that came with it. I only use this on live when I'm actively streaming. It puts a little cast sequence bar up in the top left. Super useful when you're streaming, of course. When I'm playing beta, though, I'm not too worried about it. I have weak auras 2 enabled. Unfortunately, there was a lot of bugs with the weak auras I was trying. I believe there was a new version of it released recently for beta, so in my newer videos you may see me start to play with weak auras for Warlock. It's very unlikely you will see me export anything from beta for WeakAuras, just because everything is so up in the air. Whenever we get closer to live after 8.0 pre-patch, though, expect to see a video on what WeakAuras I'm using and why. So here we have a World Quest tracker. I turn this on and off depending on what version it is, throwing a lot of errors for us right now. This is just a standard track on your minimap and your map. What World Quests are out there and what on earth you're going to get out of them, because it's super, super easy. Deja character stats is updated, fully implemented, working great. This just adds in the character frame. It adds all of these extra things back, like durability, repair total. When you click the lock thing here, it actually let you go through and select. You can just put a check mark next to anything you actually want, and then you can have it all displayed. You can go as crazy as you want or as simplistic as you want. This just adds some information back for those of us that want it. So it's Deja character stats. Again, will be linked in the description. And going back into the add-ons page, we have ElvUI and ElvUI config. These are the only two you actually need for ElvUI to work. You do need both of them. If you don't have ElvUI and ElvUI config, it won't work. So please keep that in mind. You can get that through the ElvUI website. They actually have a client for keeping it up to date, and I highly recommend you use that. It's a great little easy way to do it, so you don't have to manually install it every time. There is DBM currently on beta. I do not have it enabled as it was spamming me way too much. And I'm actually kind of used to not running with DBM in dungeons at the moment, which scares a lot of people, but it is not something you absolutely must have on all the time. It is, however, a mandatory thing in raids, as you need to see those timers. So there's a DBM. I don't think I ever have to sell anyone on that. It's just too useful not to use. I haven't done any raid testing on beta, so that's why it's not enabled. But they've been updating that pretty frequently as well. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little video on my basic beta UI. Again, it's super simple. There will be a link in the description for everything you need. So thanks again for tuning into Gatsu Gaming, and I will catch you next time.